2019 will mark the 9th anniversary of the Syrian conflict, or the war on Syria. During the course of the war, there was a lot of developments going on underground. One of these developments was that some members of the Syrian Arab Army, they deserted from the military institution and they joined the so-called Free Syrian Army or other Islamist militant groups in the country in order to fight against the government. I'm not here to discuss why these people deserted and why some people missed the military service and they escaped the country and they are now living anywhere around the world, but I'm here to discuss how could Syria address this issue in the future through legal basis. So the Syrian army liberated eastern Ghouta, liberated the southern Damascus, liberated Daraa, Aleppo, Homs, Hama. The only place left that is under the control of the so-called rebels is Idlib. So in order to address the issue of the deserters, but also to address the people who are outside the country, who might return back to Syria, but they are afraid because they escaped the military service or actually they deserted from the Syrian army. President Assad, he issued the legislative decree number 18, giving a general amnesty to the deserters and the dodgers from the Syrian army. What does that mean? That means if somebody is living inside Syria and he escaped from the military service or deserted from the military service, from the Syrian army, he can, within 4 months, in the next 4 months, he can go to the nearest police or security apparatus and hand himself and ask for amnesty, and the Syrian government will grant him the amnesty with the condition that he joins the Syrian army after a certain time and to serve the minimum 1 year and 9 months of the military service. So those who are living inside Syria and they deserted or escaped from the military service, they have 4 months to join to ask for amnesty. And those are living outside Syria, they have 6 months. Some people could ask how these people outside Syria could ask for an amnesty if they are living outside Syria. There are 2 ways actually. One, you can go back to Syria and from the border crossing you can ask for amnesty, and the second way is to go to the nearest embassy of Syria and to do the same procedures again. If you do this, you can go back to Syria without any security problems, without being arrested by the security apparatus, and to continue your life normally. But as I mentioned, in the condition that you should, if you didn't serve the Syrian army, you have to serve this 1 year and 9 months. This is the minimum of military service in Syria. This step in Syria is coming after several steps to encourage people to come back to Syria, especially the refugees, and this is also a Russian initiative on the international level trying to promote the idea that refugees can come back because 70 and 80% of the Syrian territories are peaceful and people can live normally there. However, since the Western governments were claiming that how should these people return if they are deserters or they are opposition or they escaped from the military service, now this is the legal way for them to come back. On the other hand, I can see, and a lot of people like me, who also monitoring the situation in Syria, that the mainstream media journalists, they are practicing their fear-mongering tactics as usual, and they are telling the people, don't go back, because if you went back, the Assad regime will arrest you and they will put you in jail. For these people, I have to say that inside Syria, especially those who did reconciliation with the Syrian government, they were former rebels. Many of them, they are now patrolling and securing their own areas, the areas that they belong too, and others are fighting alongside the Syrian army against these terrorist organizations in Syria, and the number of these people are not few. There are thousands of former rebels fighting alongside the Syrian army. So I would like to ask this so-called journalists, especially the ones living the chief bureaus of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and all these fancy trade newspapers who live in Beirut. They have never been to Syria, and they're asking people, don't go back, Assad will kill you, Assad will send you to prison. Please encourage reconciliation, because the war is almost over, at least against these so-called rebels, and the next step should be that we all need to be realistic and rational and encourage people to return back to their country. And Syria needs these people for reconstruction, needs manpower for in a lot of sectors, and also needs the brains that left Syria. So if somebody wants to return in Syria voluntarily, he can do this, he can take this take this amnesty and go back to Syria. And those who don't want, this is their personal life, we can't force them to do it. But if there is someone who wants to go back, please play a constructive role, because Syria, peace needs to be returned to Syria, and this is one of the steps that we can do in order to foster peace and security in my country. So this was all for today. I hope you liked the video. I'm trying to cover some of the internal issues in Syria, because they are linked to the war and also all these foreign complexities and the interventions in Syria. It's all one package. We need to understand not only the foreign angle, but also the domestic angle, in order for you guys to have a comprehensive understanding of what's going on in Syria. And if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it on social media with your friends, especially those who are still stubborn and thinking that there is a dictator going from one village to another to kill innocent people. Provoke them, send them these links, and if you want to support Syriana analysis financially, you can become my patron, or you can also tip me via PayPal. You can find all the details in the description below, and see you next time.